Alright, so I finally got the skid plate off. It's got 4 bolts, I think they're 9/16 here and here and here. Obviously I've got the radiator draining now. Having the skid plate off made it much more easier to get to the petcock, which, sorry about the lighting, but is right up in there. So anyway, got the radiator draining. I'm gonna let that empty out. I'll probably have to call it a night because it's starting to get dark now. I gotta start cleaning up. So pretty good progress for the first day. I will pick back up the next chance I get and check in then. Okay, this is day 2 of this project. I just got home from work and I'm gonna try to get a few minutes in before it gets dark on me. The next thing I am planning to do is back here on the driver's side up against the firewall. There is a bracket here that covers up the fuel pressure regulator, which is this guy right there. I'm tapping with my finger. There's a vacuum line that comes off that. I've disconnected the vacuum line, and in order to remove the fuel rail, which is what the fuel pressure regulator attaches to, you know, here's part of the fuel rail here. I've got to remove this bracket first. This thing is a pain in the butt because right here, this piece of the manifold is threaded, and there's I believe it's a 6 millimeter Allen screw that's installed from the back side here. So there's, I don't know how well you can see, but there's the top of the screw right there. Very tiny gap here between the firewall and the back of this bracket, and I've spent a long time fiddling with this thing. Thankfully somebody on planetisuzu.com, an Isuzu website, which if you haven't already found that, I strongly suggest that you check it out. You can find an answer to almost any question without even posting a thread. If you can't find an answer, just post a question on there on one of the forums and I guarantee you somebody will get back to you with an answer. Anyhow, so, you know, check that out if you've got any questions about your Isuzu. But anyhow, somebody on that site had suggested taking an Allen wrench just like this and cutting off. I cut off about half the short leg of this. This piece here used to be about twice as long. I just took a hacksaw and cut it off. And after doing some contortionist type moves back here with my fingers, I finally got it engaged in the head of that Allen screw, and then I had to just tug on this thing as hard as I could. I ended up, once I got it sort of locked into place, and I let it sit there, and then I grabbed just a open end or a crescent wrench with a hole in one end for you could use it to hang it on a pegboard or whatever, and I looped it over the end of the Allen wrench and just yanked on it as hard as I could till it broke loose. Finally the screw came loose, so now I can remove that screw back there, and then there's another one you can see right here. That one's a lot easier to get to. Like I said, I believe both of those are 6 millimeter Allen screws, so that'll get this bracket loose. You can see it's wiggling. It's also got a connection here. I believe this is the vacuum switching valve, which, if I understand correctly, controls vacuum that goes to some butterfly valves that are inside the air intake that I believe have to do with the engine braking function. You know, when the vehicle senses it's going downhill, it'll close those butterfly valves to help use the resistance of the engine to slow your vehicle down so you're not riding your brakes. I could be wrong, but I believe that's what the vacuum switching valve does here. Of course, it's got a couple of vacuum connections too, so I'll have to disconnect all of that and I can get this bracket out of the way. Then I can, hopefully after that, should be able to remove the fuel rails. I'm going to try to leave the fuel injectors attached and just pull the whole thing out as an assembly. So anyhow, we'll see how that goes, but I wanted to detail that step with the fuel pressure regulator bracket because the thing is a pain in the butt. So anyway, moving on, I'll check back in a few minutes after I get some more stuff removed. Okay, now that I've got that bracket out of the way, you can clearly see the fuel pressure regulator. I also wanted to point out that there is I guess it's a vacuum hose here I believe that's part of the evap system. I think I showed that earlier, but it traces all the way up through here, and the other end connects here to this. I guess this is another sort of vacuum switch. So this hose disconnects and connects to here. So I should be able to. Actually, I take that back. It connects there to that port. So that hose can now come out, and I think I'm just about ready to pull the fuel rail off. I don't see anything else in my way, so I am probably going to try that next. We'll give it a go. I haven't pulled this one on this vehicle before. Hopefully I can do it with the injectors attached. I've done that on my truck, but I have not done that on this vehicle, so we'll see how it goes. Wish me luck. Alright, so as it turns out, I had a little bit of difficulty getting one of the bolts that holds on the fuel rail loose. It's stuck pretty good, so I've been coating it with PB Blaster to let it soak in. So I'm going to give that a little while. So in the meantime, I moved on to some other things. I removed the lower radiator hose here, which connects to that pipe coming off the water pump there. Actually, that comes off of the thermostat there. It runs underneath the manifold to the thermostat. That hose goes down to the lower part of the radiator. I just moved that out of the way. I removed the other radiator, upper radiator hose here. It connects from the water pump up to the top of the radiator. Just got that out of my way. And then I went back and disconnected all the fuel injectors. These have like a safety clip on them, that little blue piece there that has to be pulled out that direction, and then down here this piece by my thumb has to be pulled out. Let's see if I can use my other hand without a glove. You have to push it like that, and as you pull up, I've got it upside down now, but so the connection goes on like that. So you pull the blue tab out first, and then you have to hook your finger up under there and pull out this direction as you lift up. Obviously there's 6 fuel injectors, so you want to do all those. The ones on the driver's side were a little bit harder to get to. There's one here. As you get towards the firewall, it gets hard to get your finger in there. So what I found was I took a little paint can opener tool like this. It's got, you know, this hook on the end of it. Once I pulled the blue safety clip out, I was able to reach under and pull that clip as I lift it up on the injector. I mean on the connection, and it comes out like that. So I got all those loose. So I might call it a night now. It's getting dark on me. Sorry about the poor video quality now, but anyhow, I wanted to show that how I got those injector connections loose. So I'll probably clean up my tools and wait for the next day I get off work while the sun is still up. Alright, well, I ended up getting a little bit ambitious and kept on plugging along before I quit for the night. So I ended up removing all of the bolts and nuts that hold the intake manifold in place, and I've pulled the fuel rail loose. So there's 4 fuel rail bolts I showed you earlier. 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe those were 12 millimeter. Then you just gently lift up, and the injectors will pop up out of their seats on both sides. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to leave this connected or not. You can see right back here, down behind it, sort of under and behind the intake manifold, the fuel line is connected, and there's not any slack. So all I can do is sort of lift the fuel rail up out of the way. I'm hoping that'll give me enough clearance to get the intake out, but I don't know for sure. I may actually have to pop the fuel rail loose from the fuel lines, and I don't really know how to do that. So I guess I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. The next hurdle is Now that I've removed all of the intake bolts that hold the intake down, there are, let's see, there are 4 long ones. These are all 12 millimeter. These 4 long ones go, well, let's see, there, 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 and there. Okay. Then there's 2 shorter ones, about that long. They go back here in the back. One there, and one there. Then there are, as far as I can tell, the only other thing that holds it on are 4 12 millimeter nuts that go on some studs in the sort of in the corners. One there, one right there by my finger. Then back here in the back, right there, and on the passenger side another one right there. Okay, now I've got all those loose. The manifold will move, but I realized that there is a, I guess it's a brass tube that comes off the bottom of the EGR right here and runs down to the exhaust manifold. That's how the exhaust gases get from the exhaust manifold to the EGR. So that's that tube. Sorry, the camera's trying to focus, but can't get my finger back in there. Right back there by my finger. That tube runs down below the engine and goes into the exhaust manifold right there. I guess I'm going to have to get that loose from the intake. There's a, looks like a, maybe like a flared connection there. Hopefully if I undo that nut, that tube will come out the bottom of the EGR housing, for lack of a better term, and then I can remove the intake. So I'm probably going to do some research on that tonight, and the next chance I get to work on this in the evening, I'll make that my next step and hopefully get the intake taken off. So anyhow, I think that's probably a good stopping point for tonight. It's past dark now and I'm getting hungry. So anyway, until the next time.